Welcome to another Travanci segment where we are going to be breaking down the Week 1 marquee matchups that college football has in store for the entire nation. So right now, we're going straight into the college football atmosphere with today finally bringing us the start of Week 1. I'm going to be highlighting two marquee matchups today that I'm going to be looking forward to in about an hour and 15 minutes. But the most importance is about looking in the future of what college game day holds for us. So when you have college game day, they're obviously going to have a pregame show overlooking the most important game of the Saturday. But it's all interpretational on how you look at it. If you represent your own school and you have that school pride, college game day can be wherever you are in the United States. So at this point, this is what we're going to be doing, breaking down what my favorite matchups that I am most looking forward to and why I could see some potential upsets or dominant wins. First things first, we're going to be breaking down with our Thursday marquee matchups. We have one Friday one for tomorrow, or at least tomorrow, but the point is we're going to start as Week 1 starts. So one of the most important teams and most important games, just in terms of media coverage, we are covering the Colorado Buffaloes playing a marquee D2 school in North Dakota State University. Now, what does Colorado behold? Why is there so much hype around it? The point about Colorado's momentum is because their head coach is Hall of Fame cornerback Deion Sanders. And what's unique about Deion Sanders is the fact that Brandon Ayuk just signed an extension with the freaking 49ers. Oh my gosh. All right. What's unique about the Deion Sanders is that when he was playing for the Falcons, he was this Pro Bowler cornerback. He was balling out, and then now he's declared his own coaching career, and he's coaching his sons, Shedeur Sanders and Shiloh Sanders. The point of the matter is that they have tons of talent. They basically host the talents of Travis Hunter, who's probably one of the top 10 NFL prospects going into 2025, just based on his multi-versatile skill set of playing receiver and cornerback. But who I'm looking forward to seeing on Colorado is their left tackle, Jordan Seaton, freshman, but a top 10 recruit, so it's going to be really cool to see. I see a lot of transfers, some younger people, but the point of the matter is they really wanted to establish a sense of identity. And last year they were trying to, but they obviously weren't keeping up with the moving train, just because that's what happens. In college football, it takes years to adjust a little bit as you're trying to build the dynasty. But I think they're going to look good. I really like Dallin Hayden at the receiver position, and I do like Will Shepherd as wide receiver 2, or Jimmy Horn Jr. pulling up as well. But I think last year's Amarion Miller was probably their best wide receiver 3, and he showed off and had some really good splash plays. Of course, they have Shiloh Sanders. He's going to be good, and ultimately we'll see how they look. But the problem with this is they're playing North Dakota State. North Dakota State is a lot of upperclassmen. Their entire O-line is seniors, except for the center and left guard, and both of those are 2-year players as well. They also have a senior quarterback, so that's going to be interesting. And then their entire defense, all seniors and juniors. So this is a very, very offensively, or at least depth-driven roster. I mean, on paper, I could see North Dakota State putting up a battle, but we'll see how that one goes. Ultimately, this is Colorado's test on how good they're going to look their first year. Next, we got North Carolina and Minnesota. So North Carolina obviously bouncing off a year without Drake May now. So we're going to see how they do, especially within their ACC, they're more of an air raid type of defense. They're still running with Mac Brown. So this will be interesting to see as they play a kind of a mid-tier Big Ten school. But, of course, these mid-tier schools always have something to prove when they're playing these non-conferences. So Minnesota versus UNC, this could be a really good game. I'm seeing I'm seeing a graduate transfer at the quarterback for Minnesota, so that means that entails that this is going to be his last year of college football eligibility, and it's the same thing with UNC's. He's got Max Johnson, and then Minnesota's got Max Brosmer. So both the QBs are Maxes, and that's going to be interesting to see, honestly. But ultimately, I don't really know of a lot of these players. And that's going to happen. It's the first week of college football. But point of the matter is, I see a lot of seniors within the front seven of UNC, and I see some good experience, some seniors in the front seven as well within Minnesota. So we'll see. It's going to probably be a lower scoring game just because both of them haven't really established an offensive identity yet. But we'll see what happens. One of the marquee matchups that I see as a potential upset is the Michigan Wolverines playing Fresno State Bulldogs. So I really like Mikey Keene out of Fresno State. I think they have a great offensive scheme for him. And Jeff Tedford and their offensive coordinator really gravitate towards his skill set. The problem with Michigan is, obviously they're defending champions, but they're replacing J.J. McCarthy with this quarterback called Alex Orji. I think he's going to be a similar dual threat type of quarterback. It's going to be interesting, maybe some Denard Robinson ties, but the point of the matter is they still got the boy Donnie Edwards at the helm, man. He is a sick running back. I wish Ohio State recruited him like they told them they would, but they have some other All-Americans in Colston Loveland, and they have a younger O-line, but they also have at least not a younger O-line, but just more experience. Some of them were probably waiting their turn last year. Josh Prevey is a graduate transfer, so he's looking like he's going to be the only newcomer that wasn't a part of Michigan last year, but he's the starting left guard, so we'll see how he does in his last year of eligibility. I don't see any skill players that jump out to me, but on terms of defense, they have an All-American in Mason Graham Jr. at the D tackle position. So number 55, you always got to look out for him. But the point of the matter is, I do really like Fresno State. Ultimately, I see that their secondary is a little bit upperclassmen. I like that. Honestly, all of their defense is upperclassmen. They only have one new addition, and that is at the right D end. So he's a junior transfer, Corey Foreman. We'll see how he does. But same thing with the offense. They only have one new addition, and that is James Chedden, junior transfer. So, that means that Mikey Keene now has another year of team camaraderie with these guys. They beat ASU's butt last year. That was crazy. But I really like this team. So, we're going to see what happens. It's all about Michigan's adjustment and establishing their identity. And ultimately, I think Fresno State has more of an established identity than Michigan's offense. So that's why it's going to be very competitive. The one thing that I like about Michigan is they're still going to have their defense. Like, their defense is still really, really good. They have Will Johnson, who is an All-American cornerback, and he's going to the NFL for sure. So they have two NFL caliber defenders on their team, and they have a lot of returning players. Honestly, all of them are returning on their defense. They just have one new addition. So let's see what happens. But ultimately, I think Fresno State could do something. Now, for our marquee matchup, we have ASU versus Wyoming. This one is going to be interesting because I think ASU is ready to establish their presence in the Big 12. Wyoming, although they are very consistent in the Mountain West, they are a sneaky team. Their offensive scheme is a multiple offense. They play 4-3, coached by Jay Savo. We'll see what they do, but their quarterback is a junior transfer in Evan Sabota. I've heard of him before. I think he's more of an athletic quarterback, so we'll see what happens. And then it looks like they have all returning players on their offense besides their running back in DJ Jones. So that might be interesting. DJ Jones might be good. And we'll see because that just means their O-line has a lot of camaraderie. They only have one underclassman on their O-line. Like, it's going to be interesting. But ultimately, their receivers are also very stacked. Their defense is what I'm scared of, though. They're all redshirt juniors and seniors and graduates. There's only one sophomore, and that's in Keeney Parks, and that's the right cornerback. So we'll see how Troy Omier matchups against Keeney Parks. We'll see how that goes. Ultimately, I mean, what could they really expose from us? Well, it's just our lack of consistency. If we aren't able to execute, then yeah, we're not going to really succeed. But it's interesting. We got a lot of newcomers on our team. We have 3 new additions to our offense and 4 new additions to our defense. Those are basically attaining to the starting lineup. So interesting, very interesting to see. I can't wait to see this game just because it's a night game. One of the few night games we're getting our FS1 coverage. So ultimately, I am looking forward to see how ASU establishes their presence. Now, some other matchups that we're going into. I liked Texas versus Colorado State. I think Colorado State is typically a consistent team. They run an air raid offense. It looks like they have two new additions as skilled players within the tight end and receiver. Donovan Aldi is a graduate transfer, so he's going into his last year of eligibility. So we'll see how he does. Their quarterback is a redshirt sophomore, though, so he's going to have making some adjustments to a hard, consistent Texas defense. Wow. So basically they have 4 new starters, but they still have some seniors. So the point of the matter is they have a really good balance of these new additions, but they're upperclassmen additions, like graduate transfers, junior transfers. They're legit. But the point of the matter is I think that they're always going to resonate with having that amazing defense. They play a pro spread offense and a 4-2-5 defense. They're aggressive. And so having the entire offense coming back, except for receivers, because they had to replace their NFL caliber receivers. They all basically went to the NFL last year, Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell. So now they're replacing them with some new transfers. All 3 of them are junior transfers, though. So upperclassmen that have played college football before. Ultimately, it's just about the delivery of their identity, and I really think Quinn Ewers, another year of him, is going to prove himself. And they always have Arch Manning in the backup, but Quinn Ewers is going to have the spotlight unless injury says otherwise. But their entire offensive line, juniors and seniors, that just means they're going to be running that ball aggressively. C.J. Baxter is going to be that running back, but if you know anything about or at least Texas football, is that they're definitely going to be rotational in their running back room. So going next, we're going to be going over the Texas A&M Notre Dame game. I like Notre Dame because they have Riley Leonard, who is transferred out of Duke. He is a new quarterback that I think plays a lot like, I want to say, like, I know it's low-hanging fruit to say him, but honestly, I don't know. It's interesting. He plays like Trevor Lawrence a little bit. Like, he's too passive, but he still plays like Trevor Lawrence. But the point of the matter is they definitely have, a good, solid team. Usually they have a good, solid team. So we'll see. They have a lot of hype going into their team into their season right now. But I'm seeing a lot of sophomores and freshmen, so very underclassmen-heavy offense. That'll be interesting. They have Bo Collins, though, who's a senior transfer. We'll see how he does. Ultimately, I am excited for that. And then, other than that, their defense is pretty good. I know they have some Jordan Clark. Okay, he's going to play slot. He's Ryan Clark's son. He's a graduate transfer. He's going into his last year of eligibility. And, yeah, they have RJ Clark and one other player, the only 2 new additions to a defense. So that means everyone is coming back and pretty much has that camaraderie. Ooh, it looks like they have 4 graduates or 5 graduates on their defense. So that just means they're going into their last year of eligibility. So that's probably where their hype is coming from. So I like Notre Dame's defense. But with Texas A&M, I'm excited to see a redshirt sophomore quarterback. Okay, Le'Veon Moss. Okay, at the running back, we'll see how he does. Ultimately, we got 4 transfers on the offense, so they're going to have to make some adjustments, just getting used to everything. And then the same thing with the defense, a lot of transfers as well. So, but they're upperclassmen transfers, so that speaks good. That speaks at least of good faith. but I like this. I like this matchup a lot. If anyone's were to upset a Notre Dame team, it would be an A&M. But other than that, yeah, I do like that. Now for one of the even better matchups coming into this weekend is the Georgia versus Clemson game. All right, so we're looking at number 1 in the nation versus number 14 in the nation. Coached by Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney, these two are blue chip coaches going to go in that College Football Hall of Fame eventually. The point of the matter is, Georgia, they're championship hungry right now. And if they were to really establish some sort of identity, this would be the perfect game to start that kind of momentum. Right now, their entire offense is coming back. The only new addition they have on their offense is running back Trevor Etienne, who was a phenomenal running back on Florida, and his brother is Travis Etienne, who is an NFL prospect. So ultimately, I am very confident in Georgia to really perform that consistency. They're going to be replacing some good talented players, but we'll see how it goes. Their entire defense is returning another year as well. Their whole starting lineup, there is not a single new addition. So a lot of upperclassmen. There is only 3 sophomores on the starting lineup, so that is going to be interesting for Georgia. For Clemson's sake, they have a returning offense as well. Another year of Cade Klubnik. I'm interested to see Cade Klubnik. I don't have a lot of confidence in him, but again, it's all about development. So I'm seeing a very good upper-class offensive line. So I'm seeing some redshirt juniors, some seniors, some graduates. That's crazy. Skill players, we'll see how they do. Clemson's usually has some good skill players, and their entire defense is returning as well. This is probably just because Dabo Swinney doesn't use the transfer portal like that. So just from returning players, we'll see how good Clemson does against Georgia. Ultimately, I can't make predictions because I'm just looking on paper and I don't know the context of each team. But that's just the fun in it. It's week 1 and we're going to go watch the teams, and then the film will provide context because that's all it's about. Next game, we got West Virginia versus Penn State. Interesting game. Okay, so it looks like West Virginia just has 2 new additions on their defense, 1 new addition on their offense. It looks like their entire O-line is pretty much upperclassmen. They're going to be replacing some good players like my boy Zach Frazier. But let's see what quarterback Garrett Green going into his senior year can do. As Penn State now, oh my God, they got Julian Fleming out of Ohio State transfer. He's going into his senior year. Now he has something to prove, but so does their quarterback Drew Aller. A lot of controversy against his position, or the fact that they should have at least gotten a transfer quarterback. We'll see what Penn State can do because they're always the doormat of Ohio State. But we'll see. I mean, they stole one of our receivers, so we'll see how that goes. And then they have an all-returning defense. They just have 1 new addition, but he is a transfer sophomore. He's playing cornerback, A.J. Harris, so that might be a new key player that has to at least adjust to Penn State's usually dominant defense. We'll see, though. They are all upperclassmen, though, so I'm usually confident about this team, Penn State. So for West Virginia, Penn State, that's going to be a good game just because, it's Big 12, Big 10 matchup. People sleep on West Virginia, but, something about it. This is actually a pretty rivalrous game, except for the fact that, West Virginia usually competes against Pitt. But, again, these are, down the road from each other. So this will be a good game, honestly. I like that. Okay, now we got Boston College versus Florida State. Bill O'Brien's first head coaching campaign with Boston College, and he's going to play a very angry Mike Norvell Florida State team. Florida State has key players such as DJ Ugalele, Malik Benson. They are very, very stacked all around, but the point of the matter is they have to get their identity down. So I didn't see a lot of confidence from what their offense was doing. I just saw more of a Mike Norvell imitated scheme, but ultimately it's them versus them, and so we'll see how successful they can become. I do really like Boston College just at least making some culture shifts. They got Thomas Castellanos at the quarterback, so we'll see how he does, and then Kai Robichaux at senior transfer. We'll see how he does as well. But ultimately, yeah, this is going to be a good game. Boston College, Florida State. I like this matchup for sure. So that's a good week 1 matchup. Very slept on. Very slept on. Especially, I think it's the Labor Day matchup or a Sunday matchup. But now we have Miami, Florida versus Florida Gators. This is interesting, honestly. What's interesting about Florida is they got Graham Mertz. They're going in with him. We're going to see how they do just in terms of their consistency. That's usually what their problem is. They're not really as consistent in the SEC, but this is an out-of-conference opponent that they might feel like they could take advantage of in a Miami, Florida team, except for the fact that this is a completely new roster. In my opinion, they completely replaced Van Dyke, who I was not confident with Cam Ward, who was the Washington State transfer. And we'll see how Cam Ward does. He's best friends with Shador. I think he's a very developmental project, but we'll see what they can do. And then they have Damian Martinez, junior transfer at the running back position. And a Samuel Brown, senior transfer. So, look, Samuel Brown, Cam Ward, Damian Martinez. We'll see how they do. This is going to be a cool team. I think they'll be better than they were last year, but they're running a spread pro style. That's good for Cam Ward, and ultimately we'll see how that goes. And then defense-wise, same thing. Some newcomers, but a lot of upperclassmen. So that'll be interesting. Now for the Friday matchup, I really like TCU versus Stanford. This is going to be a good game. This is Stanford's first year in the ACC, and TCU has something to prove. I mean, you guys remember from last year in which TCU dropped their first game to Colorado, and that was a crazy game, honestly. But TCU has returning quarterback Josh Hoover, redshirt sophomore, and then they have it looks like they have 3 newcomers on the offensive line and a newcomer at the tight end position, all upperclassmen. So we'll see how they replace those positions from last year, and we'll see how this potential offense looks. I'm keeping a close eye on TCU just because they're a Big 12 fellow. But same with their defense, a lot of upperclassmen, and looks like they have 4 new additions, but all upperclassmen. So we'll see how they do. And then Stanford, however, all returning team. It looks like they only have 1 newcomer on each team on offense and defense, and the offensive guy is a freshman. He's a freshman receiver at the Z, so we'll see how he does. Looks like this is a very young team. I think Stanford is going to have a culture rebuild. They're coached by Troy Taylor right now. We'll see how he does. But TCU Sonny Dykes really trying to get back into that college football playoff conversation, which they were in literally 2 years ago. And so they beat a Michigan team. They made the championship with Max Duggan. That was a good team. So we'll see how they do with Cam Cook and Josh Hoover at the helm, running quarterback and running back. And then we'll see what they can do with their returning 3 senior wide receivers. That's cool. They got very upper-class seniors. So TCU Stanford on Friday night, that is a cool week 1 matchup. I like that. Both of them definitely going to be aggressive on just establishing their time of possession, but ultimately TCU's that air raid offense, and we'll see if they can execute that. Now we got Nebraska versus UTEP. I like this matchup, honestly, because basically Nebraska has a lot to prove. With Dylan Raiola now, their star freshman quarterback, they really have to at least establish some sort of identity in the Big Ten, because running spread option, Matt Rule's, I think this is his 3rd year, might be his 2nd, but ultimately, after he was let go of the Panthers' head coaching job, this was his redemption tour. So they have 2 new receivers, senior transfers. That'll be interesting. And they're pairing those 2 guys with Dylan Raiola. And then they have Emmett Johnson at the sophomore running back. So we'll see how he does. But in all returning defense, that is sick to see. All of them are upperclassmen as well. It looks like there is only 1 sophomore and everyone else is a junior and senior. That's pretty cool, honestly. Good for them. We'll see what Matt Rule can do. But I like this UTEP team. They got Caden McConnell, junior transfer. We'll see how he does. Javon Jackson, we'll see how he does. 2 newcomers at the tackle position, and then 2 new receivers as well. So frankly, this is just another UTEP team that is just looking for an upset. Coached by Scotty Walden, we'll see what they can do, but Nebraska and UTEP. This can be just a sneaky good week 1 matchup. We have one of the biggest matchups as well. This is in the same tier as Georgia and Clemson. We have LSU versus USC. LSU has a lot of returning players, but there were younger players that are now stepping up and having their role increased. So, I see their O-line is really good. They have a freshman center, though, but everyone else is upperclassed. I like Garrett Newsomere. Nick Saban's high on him. We'll see how that goes. CJ Daniels is their transfer graduate receiver, so we'll see how he does. If you're a receiver and you want to go to LSU, obviously you want to go to the NFL. So they run a multiple scheme with Brian Kelly, and their entire defense is returning besides 2 players, but they're graduate transfers. So they're older players that have played a lot of football. So everyone else just returning, probably just having their name called. And then their star player is Harold Perkins Jr. He is a good linebacker. We'll see. He's definitely NFL quality, though. I don't know how Newsomere is going to do. I think that's just Nick Saban hyping up the SEC. But I definitely like Harold Perkins. So USC-wise, they have an all-returning team that are now stepping up to roles they probably didn't have before, except for their running back, Woody Marks, senior transfer. I'm interested to see how good he is, honestly. But their quarterback is Miller Moss. We'll see how Miller Moss does. He wants to obviously take over after that Caleb Williams quarterback position. That's pretty hard to fulfill, but ultimately just be yourself. Miller Moss, you're in the Big Ten now. I don't think they're going to be as dominant. There's no way. They have 5 newcomers on their defense. They're all upperclassmen transfers, so at least that just goes to show that they've played a lot of football. But the fact of the matter is, I can't wait to see Deuce Robinson. He's a younger player. We'll see. USC shouldn't have begged so hard to go from the Pac-12 because honestly, I don't think they're going to be as dominant in the Big Ten. But we'll see. They're coached by Lincoln Riley. This is a great matchup. Brian Kelly versus Lincoln Riley. Completely new teams, at least for this year. I know they're familiar with them from last year, but we'll see how things go. But ultimately, yeah, that is your guys' Week 1 marquee matchups. This is really it. The college football Week 1 is now starting, and I'm so excited. I can't believe it's starting off with Colorado. It's so funny. But that's how it always has to go, right? They got to get the prime time. But I am excited to get that FS1 coverage for ASU versus Wyoming, and ultimately, can't wait to cover our school, but we got to be there for college football coverage. This is the only way. We have to just show off and at least try to get some context from the film or whatever we see on Saturday. Or for now, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I think there's a Monday game. We'll see. That's pretty funny. But ultimately, it's just going to be those Saturdays, and then we'll be complimenting with NFL Sunday. So thank you guys so much for this Tremonchi segment. This is your guys' Week 1 marquee matchups presented by the 480 Experience, and I cannot wait to cover another week to go. Thank you guys so much.